You!
Good evening, everybody, or morning, or afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. I am your host, Armando Ortega, and welcome back to another episode of the Mind of Mando. If you guys are at work, I hope you guys have a great shift, but if you guys are finish up your graveyard shift, I hope you have a good day's sleep. Man, it's like these episodes are coming in a lot later and later than what they used to. Remember, I used to like shell out an episode every day or every other day or every 3 days. You know, I checked today while I was at work, and it was 9 days since my last episode. And that's just what it is, you know. Preoccupied more with work and everything like that. Picking up a little more hours here and there, and I didn't expect how much impact it was going to have switching to mornings for the time being, possibly permanently. But yeah, it's different, mainly because I don't know, like you have days when my lady's home, and how do you say it? I don't really have much time for myself, because when I do these episodes, I'm by myself. I'm at my home and everything like that. Right now, my lady's out riding her bike, doing deliveries for some extra money, which is good on her. But how do you say it? Man, yeah, it's like it's late at night, at least for me right now. It's 9:11, RIP. But yeah, it's just usually when I would work in the evening, I would get in at 2:00, which means I woke up in the morning early. Used to either make breakfast first and then work out, or work out and then make breakfast. But typically what it was is make breakfast first, something light, something nutritious. Watch some TV or listen to music while enjoying my breakfast. And then clean up just a bit, just a tad bit, organize stuff, you know. So she doesn't come home to a messy house, nor do I. But after that, it was more about doing my podcast, setting it up around 10:00 or so, and then when I was done, edit it together, and then when it was exporting, just go work out, you know, and then come back, take a shower, and by that time, it would always be done. Would upload it up to YouTube, head off to work, and there you go, blammo. Now it's who knows really. I didn't set up my microphone holder right now, but I put a piece of foam down on the table, so if I have to place it on my mic, hopefully it doesn't make too much noise. Not sure how much you can hear in the background what's being played. I'll put it up a little louder. So what you're listening to is music, songs that are being sang by some Vikings from the game Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which actually I've been addicted to a lot more now. My buddy, the one who moved to Wyoming, he was stuck on it for a while. I think like over a year, because he said, I got to a point where I was too low of a level to raid anything, and I need to raid strongholds, raid camps to get raw materials to upgrade my settlement. And it's like, then just go do it. I'm not high enough level. Just sneak in and steal the stuff. It's Assassin's Creed, you know, hide in plain sight type of dealio. But you picked it up again, start playing it, and actually he's been hooked on it, which is awesome. And I've been hooked on it again, especially since I bit the bullet and bought the season pass, which actually wasn't even much of a big deal. They were selling the DLCs. The cheapest DLC was $20, and that was just for one. And then they have like 4 DLCs out. So it ranged from $20 to $25 per DLC for 4 of them. That's $100 basically. And how do you call it? The season pass was only like $20, and it included all 4 of the DLCs. And I was like, damn, let me just buy it then. So I got all 4 DLCs. It's amazing. It's fun. And got a new armor set. And I look pretty cool. I might just start using that for my background. Oh, this song is one of my favorites for reals. Yeah, it's really good. So, how do you say it? Yeah, it's just a fun game, to be honest. You know, this episode might we have a lot to unpack, especially since a lot of stuff has been happening this past week or so, week and a half basically. And it's like, man, but it's probably gonna stick more to the Assassin's Creed type of side, because it's just, you know, the franchise has come a very, very, very long way from where it was, especially since they've been announcing their their 15-year anniversary, or yeah, their upcoming 15-year anniversary or something like that. So they've been doing a lot of special things, and one thing that was rumored was when I think it was Ubisoft posted up stills on their Twitter, and it was, or Instagram, which was basically stills from the announcement trailer for the first Assassin's Creed game, but it looked different, a little more color, a little better rendering, a little better texture, this and that. People are like, are they finally going to give us a remastered version of the very first Assassin's Creed? Which, if they do, I hope it's true, because it'd be nice to get back to the roots, you know, the game that started it all and everything, that really captured what it was to be an assassin, to hide in plain sight, get lost amongst the crowd, you know. And that was a cool reason why I got into Assassin's Creed. Well, I got into Assassin's Creed mainly because 2012, when I graduated high school, they were announcing heavily Assassin's Creed 3. That's with Connor Kenway, or his native name, Reton and everything. I think I said it right. And what do you call it? In the American Revolution, and I loved it because the American Revolution, the 13 colonies, that was one of my favorite points in history. It just had so much going on for it, and it's crazy, it's insane, and I loved it. Thing is, how do you call it? That's what I started playing. That's what really meant, like, man, I thought originally that they were all the same assassins, is the same character, you know, all the way through, until I realized, no, Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2, Revelations, Brotherhood, all have different characters for assassins, and for different time periods, different parts of the world. And that's just what I fell in love with and everything. But here's the thing. If you compare, like, what was that? Compare. Oh my god, it was weird. If you compare it to what Assassin's Creed is now versus to what it was in the first few games, you're gonna see how different it is. You know, how the goal, how the goal line was moved, shifted, yada yada. Because I remember one of the things that happened for the first Assassin's Creed game is when they did the first trailer for it to announce, you know, Altair ibn al-Had and everything, to be an assassin over in the Middle East, Jerusalem, and all that stuff. One thing the trailer had when Altair was going to kill that Templar was that he had a crossbow in his back and everything, and he used it in the trailer, but then quickly got rid of it. The thing is, they took that crossbow away from the final product of the game. The reason, because the crossbow was historically inaccurate at that point. And one of the major things that Ubisoft was basically saying was, like, all the characters in the game are historically accurate, and those historically accurate people that you have to assassinate in game will have died at the same location and time that they've died in real life. And it was cool because then you had little tidbits, little pieces of history of certain locations, of certain factions, of certain groups of people, yada, 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 you know. And it was trying to be as historically accurate as possible while inserting you, the player, in the middle of all these historic moments of history, basically. And it was fun. And you know, me back in high school, aside from music and aside from PE, my favorite subject was history. And I just loved history, and I passed history with flying colors. History was super good. And it's just something that always interests me. And the fact that they put it in a game and made you an assassin in the middle of all of it, I was like, yes, please. You know? Yes, please. Get some water real quick. Delicious. I gotta get more liquid death. But yeah. So they did that for the first Assassin's Creed game. The second one, they upgraded the combat, how you do it, how you can parry, block, slight attack, strong attack, yada yada. You know, they had social stealth, which was great. See, in the first Assassin's Creed game, they tried to basically be like hide in plain sight, but there was very limited places where you could actually hide in plain sight. If you didn't find a group of like priests or religious people that also had white hoods on and everything like that, you had to go run on the rooftops until you find like some rooftop flower or whatever, and that you had to go in and hide in. I think you were able to hide in haystacks. I don't know if they just immediately kicked you out. It's been years since I played the first game, but other than that, it was those two options. And then, you know, how do you call it, being in the middle of the group of monks, the group of religious people. They're not monks. And you know, holding B, that was on Xbox, and Altair would put his head to get hit. He would bow his head and clasp his hands together, act like he was praying while walking amongst them and everything. And that's how social stealth worked. But then you had Assassin's Creed 2 that just added on to that. Like really, and they did a great job. Like, yeah, they still had the stuff that they had in Assassin's Creed 1, but now you can sit down on a bench between two people. And, you know, so you're running away from whoever you're running away. You turn a corner, you sit down on a bench that's right there. And then just a second later, the guards who were chasing you, the people who were chasing you, turn the corner and they don't see you. They're like, what the hell, you know? And then they just keep searching around. They either keep running or they kind of like stay in the area, kind of be like if they can recognize you. But it's sick because it's just like you turn the corner and you sit down and boom, that's it. You're just one other person in the crowd. That's all. Or if you're walking and everything and you need to pickpocket. That's a cool thing that I kind of miss in Assassin's Creed. You're able to pickpocket people. They got rid of that for a while, I believe, but then they brought it back and everything. Although it's still not as encouraged as it was in early Assassin's Creed game. They brought back pickpocketing. And then you could walk, like, crowds move. Like, you had people huddled up together, and you can walk into their crowd and just blend in with them. But then you have social stealth because people go out with other people in real life, in a group, in a crowd and everything like that, and they all walk and talk and socialize. And in Assassin's Creed 2, it allowed you to actually walk with those crowds, so you could be hidden while being mobile at the same time. And it just added so many of these things and everything. So it really encouraged you to hide in plain sight. It really encouraged you to be a stealthy assassin. You know, you're just a blade in the shadow. That's all you are. You're in, you're out. You know, it's like you have to go and assassinate a Templar. A Templar goes in a room and he has two guards outside. You find an alternate way in. You go in there, you silently take him out, and you leave before the guards ever even notice anything's happening. You know, who knows how long the time would have passed before they realize that the person they're protecting has been dead. You know, and it was such a fun premise and a fun thing and everything like that. And I feel like it was. I wasn't a fan of Brotherhood or Revelations. I'm still not. I think AC3 was when it started kind of changing, and rightfully so, because it's just like Connor. He was a native, Yeah, his people fought stealthily sometimes, but they were warriors. They were in war with other tribes. They were supposed to be brutal, skilled, yada yada, and everything like that. But Connor was still relatively young when Achilles started training him to be an assassin. So he was able to incorporate a lot of stealth. The thing is, since they overhauled the combat, you no longer had to like block just right. Watch how the enemy was like initiating their movement to strike or anything like that. All you need to do was see that red triangle above their head or red circle, whatever, flash. And as soon as you see that, press B, and then Connor just blocks, and then just press X, and he attacks, and he immediately kills them. I will say this: the combat was fun. The combat was fluid. The combat was just beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. I love how war at that time with firearms, you see this in history books, you see this in movies around that era, especially in The Patriot, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. You see that how the way they used to fight war back then was get in formations, and then you have the front row shoot at the enemy, then they kneel down, the second row shoots at an enemy, then they kneel down, third row sometimes they shoot at the enemy, and by the time the third is done, the first row has already reloaded their muskets and ready to fire again. But they stood like right next to each other. Every row was right behind the row in front of them. Of course, that's how rows work, but that's how it was. They lined up, they aimed, they fired. And it being during the when the American Revolution was happening, that's something that's expected to have been a thing, and it was cool because now that they made it a thing in the game, Connor was able to grab whatever enemy was near him and just use him as a human shield, just to shield him from other shots before he continues fighting, and it was great. And it's also the first game that actually introduced sailing, being on a ship and everything. Of course, it didn't go into the lengths of like Black Flag or Rogue, but how do you call it? Yeah, you were able to sail in certain waters, certain distances, and you're able to travel to different points in the original 13 colonies, but you were only able to walk around in Boston and New York and the frontier and the homestead and everything like that. One cool thing that the DLC is that Connor was able to travel to some old Mayan ruins, and there was no enemies there, like absolutely no enemies. The only danger was in like cutscenes real quick and everything. It was more just of a scaling parkour platformer. But in the end, you got the old Mayan sawtooth blade, which was killer. I loved it and everything. But I rarely ever switched from the tomahawk, from the assassin's tomahawk, which I always thought was one of the coolest tomahawks out there, because it was literally the assassin symbol for the head and everything, and it was sick. But yeah, and then you have Black Flag and then Rogue, which Black Flag was essentially like, yeah, there's assassins, and they did it pretty well, but you were a pirate. You were a pirate most of the game, but the game still did a really good job to encourage you to be stealthy, because it still gave you missions to do, but the game was basically saying like, yeah, you're a pirate, but this mission you're on is so crucial that you absolutely cannot get caught, because the game will desynchronize and all that stuff. So it still encouraged you to be stealthy. It's still, and also, and it like included like bush areas so you can hide when there's no crowd around or anything like that. What is this? What? There we go. That was weird. But it was just so great. You can sail around the ocean in the Carib. How do you guys say the Caribbean or the Caribbean? You know, but you were there in that area, and and in Assassin's Creed Rogue, which came out the same day as the next gen version of Assassin's Creed Unity. I'll get to that one in a sec. Assassin's Creed Rogue, you were sailing in the Morgan, not the Jackdaw, but more in the Northern Americas, and you were going in the icy waters, and you could see polar bears and stuff, and that was pretty lit. But how do you call it? Black Flag was just a different story, you know. I never got to 100% the game because in order to do that, you got to collect a lot of stuff that are underwater in the ocean. And I don't know about you guys, but I am scared of the water. like, like I hate open water. I truly do. It's just I can't handle it. Not even in video games. It's just in video games. Oh my god, I'm shaking just just talking about it. In video games, I can't handle. I remember one time I was playing Far Cry 6, and I was doing this one mission at the beach area, and there was something I had to look for and everything, and I couldn't find it until I realized that there's this platform that's semi-submerged into the water. And then I was just like, huh, that platform isn't there just for random. Might be something like right there in the shallow waters. So I was like, I'll just dip down because at this point, dude, I haven't seen any creatures in the water, and I was playing for hours at that point. So I'm at the water, and I was just like, okay. So I jump in, thinking it's gonna be fine, and as soon as I jump in and look up, two great whites are right there in front of me. When I tell you that my entire body just had this tingly sensation amplified and just rushed through it, my heart was racing. My head was getting like, it felt like someone was putting their hands on both sides of my head and squishing, crushing it inward. Like, if you guys ever watched Invincible on Amazon Prime, or just seen that scene when he's fighting the Guardians of the Globe on YouTube, you know, when he goes on Red Rush and he just grabs him and Omni-Man grabs him in his head and just starts crushing it. That's how I feel, you know, when I just get that tense. And I'm getting out and I finally make it out, and I'm like, yeah, no, screw it. Turns out it was just a random platform submerged semi in the water. There was absolutely zero reason for that platform to be there. It was just there. So, you know, the thing I was looking for was actually on land inside of a cabin. But yeah, so I how do you say it? Back to Black Flag. I can't 100% it because I just can't handle going underwater. I could only go through that mission that forces you to go underwater and everything to progress the story, because that's the mission that introduces the diving bell and what you can do. But that's it. That's all I can do. I can't do anything else besides that. I just can't handle it. It's not for me, you know. And I like it how in the end you actually do end up you know, following through with the assassins and everything. Edward Kenway. It's also, I'll get back to this later. Rogue was fun. I love the whole thing of assassin turned Templar, even though you still play like an assassin pretty much. But the story is the thing that impressed me the most, really, because it's just like, okay, how is this gonna work? You know, why is it? And it really shows the folly of the Colonial Brotherhood. I don't know what it is with the Colonial Brotherhood, but they were just not good. Not saying that they were like story or impression wise bad. I mean, like, they weren't a good section of the Brotherhood. They were basically, not corrupt? Well, I guess you could kind of say that, but what's the other word? They disregarded the lives of the innocent, which, I know the tenet says stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent, which they did. They didn't stab anybody with their blade who was innocent, but it's just like, I guess that's just open for interpretation, unless it was absolutely like, hey, no, this is an interpretation. This is don't stab anybody with your blade or anything. But it's just like, but putting the lives of an innocent person in peril, possibly absolutely having them die, that's cool though, right? Just not in this form and everything, because the Colonial Brotherhood screwed up. They were looking for precursors and everything, which was the whole thing that was censored in Black Flag. The Colonial Brotherhood was looking for precursors, and basically what precursors was, I guess you could kind of say, I'm probably botching this, but you could probably say they were central points in the earth where things connect together to make the earth stable, from the time of the Isu and the first civilization. So by finding those precursors and messing with what's there, every time a precursor is messed with, major destruction in the real world happened. So the reason Shay Patrick Cormac, how do you call it, went from assassin to Templar, was because he was sent out to the Colonial Brotherhood never even liked Shay. That was the one thing that was set up pretty quick at the beginning of the game. But the whole thing was, Shay was just looked at as the black sheep, and he was sent out to do this very sensitive mission, and Shay had no idea what the mission would entail or anything. So he went out there, found the precursor, and was told that he needed to bring whatever was there back. So Shay found the precursor site, found the thing they were talking about, and grabbed what they told him for him to grab and bring back. And guess what? I think this happened in Haiti. Just chaos. I think the worst level of earthquake happened in Haiti, and was just absolutely demolishing buildings, killing people. And I think he killed like tens of thousands just by doing that. And he felt so responsible and so ashamed of himself that he expressed his anger and rage of what the Brotherhood had him do, and the fact that the innocents were killed, and he didn't want that. Had he known that was going to happen, he would have never done it. But the Brotherhood didn't tell him. They just told him to do this, and that's it. They didn't tell him what was going to happen. And the fact that he almost died too. And when he found out that the Colonial Brotherhood was still going to pursue other precursor sites, despite Shay reporting back that tens of thousands of innocents were killed, Shay couldn't take it. Shay was like, I'm taking all the information I just gave to you, when you're not there, and I'm destroying it. And what happened? Shay, when no one was there, snuck into the Davenport, the homestead, which is where you're at in AC3, and got the info. Except he was caught, and he was chased, and they tried to kill him. Except he got shot at one point, but he jumped off a cliff, somehow survived. And then that's when he realized that the Brotherhood wasn't what he thought it was, and it needed to be stopped. And that's when he started beginning his transition into Templar Order. And that's when you start seeing that, especially if you're young, if you're really into stories, you start really realizing that the world is not black and white, and and this is real life that I'm talking about right now. When you go through certain things in life for one side only, that's how you view the world. That's how you view everything. Every problem you face in life, if you're only if you've only been living a life one certain way and experienced one certain thing, you're gonna believe that life always works that one certain way until you go out there and you expand your mind and you start seeing different things from different perspective, living different experiences that you wouldn't normally have lived or anything like that. Can you really start seeing like, holy crap, this is different. This isn't what I thought it was, yada yada, you know? And it's good for people to experience that, to like really think about that. But that's basically what happened to Shay in Assassin's Creed Rogue. You know, he grew up in the Brotherhood. He believed what the Brotherhood was doing was correct. The Brotherhood wanted freedom and peace for the people. That was what was indoctrinated in him until he started really seeing things for himself, experiencing things that he realized, yeah, the Brotherhood's not this way, you know? And the unfortunate thing is, I'm sure that was just the Colonial Brotherhood doing those dumb decisions, you know? I'm sure if you had other factions of the Brotherhood come in and see what the Colonial Brotherhood was doing, that they're gonna be like, yo, what's going on here? Like, what are you doing? You know? And that's why I asked earlier, it's just like the tenet, stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent and everything. Is that meant to be taken literally? Hey, don't stab innocent people with your blade. Or is it meant to be taken as interpretation? Like, don't harm the innocent, you know? Because if it's supposed to be taken to interpretation, then the Colonial Brotherhood failed. You know, they absolutely failed. They broke that tenet a million times over, because that's only one precursor set that we know of, you know, from when Rogue started. That's not even like, you know, anything that happened before or anything like that. This just happened to be the one that Shay went on, you know. Hold on, the music ended. Let me find something else. Oh, how's everybody doing though? You guys doing good? Yeah, I figured. Oh, my mother told me what? There we go. This one's a good song. My mother told me someday I will buy Cali with blue doors, say to distant shore. Okay, my phone's charging now. Sweet. Excuse me. Man, it's 32 minutes already. I've been talking about just that. Well, anyways, this is the whole thing that I love about Rogue and Unity, the fact that they got released at the same time. And spoilers for those who haven't played Rogue or Unity, even though you should have. Like, people are like, oh, Rogue is just the clone of Black Flag. And I'm like, I can see why they say that, but play it for the story at least, you know? Because think about it, this is happening also in the 13 colonies. But this is before Washington started rebelling against the British Empire. He was still a soldier for the British, for King George. You know, this is years before Connor even existed. You know, so anyways, this is the spoiler parts that is happening. So in the end of Rogue, when you spoilers, cripple Achilles, and that's how he started getting into a cane when Connor found him all those years later. Years pass, and it is now the year where the American Revolution was won for the 13 colonies, and the United States the colonies had declared independence from the British Empire at that point. It's France now. We're in France at this point. Shay walks up to this courtyard, into this building, because he has a target to kill, an assassin, Mr. Dorian. So you go in there and you're sneaking into the building, you're sneaking into the hallways, using social stealth, hiding from the guards, etc., etc., etc. And then you walk past these little kids, just being like, oh, do you think they seen us steal those apples and everything? It's like, oh, I hope they did it. Oh, it's so much fun. This, and that. And then Shay just passes by them, just whatever, because they don't play a significant role in this point. They're just there. It's a line of dialogue that's happening. And then he enters finally a stretch, a long hallway and everything with a crowd of people. And you hear this guy going, Arno, 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 where are you? Has anybody seen my son? Where's Arno? Arno! And he's calling his son Arno and everything. He is the one we have to kill. So we end up stabbing him in his chest. And we sit him down. And that's why I love the old Assassin's Creed games. Because it's not just you stab somebody with your hidden blade and then just dip. If there's something around, the assassin, or in this case, Shay, would literally place them down as if they were sitting or sleeping or everything like that. Because you're supposed to be sneaky. You know, you can't just leave a body laying there dying. You make it look like it's just chilling, you know? So that way you can get away before anybody gets wise and be like, hey, you know, that person's dying, you know? So you go up to him, you stab him in the chest, then you sit him down, and now he has a few breaths left to talk to you, and he's like, you'll never get away with this. Old man Connor won his war and everything like that, you know? And then like Shay's like with his, I can't do an Irish accent, so I'm not even gonna attempt it. But yeah, so Shay's like, you know, I don't care. You were my target and I took you out and everything like that. And it ends so badass with a monologue from Shay as he's walking away, his thoughts, and he's like, I fight for you, Creed, and everything. Super different than how he was in the beginning of the game. Play it, guys. I'm telling you, play the game. It's really good. So, what do you call it? That's how the game ends. Pop in Unity into the new gen consoles, well, at least new gen at that point. It was 2014 when this happened. And everything's upgraded. Everything's overhauled. Oh my God. Let me tell you something. A lot of people talk crap, and understandably so, because when the game was released, it was just riddled with so many glitches. It was unplayable. It was terrible. They needed to take at least another year to really polish out all the bugs and everything like that. Luckily for me, when I played through it, I was able to play the whole thing with only encountering a single glitch. And I got it the day it was released. I pre-ordered that game and everything. Both games, actually. And I got, like, you know, exclusive content. But later on, throughout the time, the devs, they release updates upon updates. And they really, really polished the game. And as I'm sorry to the fans, they released a good length amount of DLC for absolutely free. And it was like, cool. You play Unity now, it is one of the most beautiful installments ever. The most beautiful parkour system, the most beautiful how do you call it, map and everything. Yeah, things look the same, but you gotta, like, sometimes if you pop in Unity, just walk around, just look at the crowd, look how many people can be just handled in one go and everything. Look how this is the game where it implemented a button where you can crouch, where you can hide whenever you want, where you can snap to cover. This is the first Assassin's Creed game that allowed you to go indoors without having a loading screen or a loading scene or anything like that. You just effortlessly just go through buildings, and it's not even like in Assassin's Creed 3, if you find windows that are open and you jump into those windows, like a pre-rendered cutscene, it was just gonna show Connor running through there until you're back outside again, and then you were able to take control again. No, in Unity, you find a window that's open and you jump in there, you can still control yourself while you're inside. And it's such a great, oh my God, the combat system. One thing that the developers were saying is they weren't going to make combat easy, and they meant it. You had to be smart with how you fight and everything for Unity. You had to know that if you're fighting one person and you fight smart, you can take him. If you're fighting two people and you're competent in fighting, it's not going to be as easy as 1, but you can still take him. 3, it's a lot harder. But if you're 4 people against 4 people or more, just get out of there. Just really get out of there, because you will not win that and everything unless you have like cheats or whatever, unless you're like God mode and everything. And that's why I like it, because that Assassin's Creed game encourage you to do that. You can go in there with heavy weapons, you can go in there with spears, you can go in there with swords and everything like that, but you can still be overwhelmed. It does not matter. You can be super skillful, but you can still be overwhelmed. And it encouraged you to be an assassin. Hide in plain sight. Remember that. You can fight somebody head to head and everything, but you can be overwhelmed. And guess what? One of the most frequent things that you're going to be using is a smoke bomb, because you're going to throw it on the floor when you realize that you need to get out of there, and you'll pop out from a window and you'll go loot. Like the smoke is going to dissipate, and they look around. They can't find you. They don't know where you're at. They're going to look around where they're at. They're not going to be like, oh, let me climb this roof just to check. No, the last place they saw you was in that area. They're going to search that area, and you could be on the other side of the map. It doesn't matter anymore. So the game is beautiful, guys. The parkour system was absolutely chef's kiss, just perfect. It had a free run up and free run down system, and they made the maneuvering just look absolutely beautiful. I want to play it again now. The map isn't too big, but it's just overloaded with things to do and everything. I'm still finding new stuff and everything, even though I haven't played it for a while. And how do you call it? Yeah, it's just a marvelous game. Honestly, really, everyone play it. Just play Unity. Play all of them, to be honest. Not all of them. Play Rogue and Unity. I feel like a lot of people will talk crap about that. And yeah, so I mean, Unity is so beautiful, is so perfect. Yes, I'm going to say those words. That the fact that you can pop Unity in, and when you start playing it, it looks more like a new gen game than the current new gen games. It just still looks so crisp, so brand new. The sounds, the lighting, the graphics, everything just looks newer than the new stuff now. And it's a game from 2014. It just holds up. It really does, honestly. I think Assassin's Creed Unity was the last good Assassin's Creed game that actually made you feel like an assassin. And it was amazing. Well, anyways, what I was saying was, when you begin Unity, spoilers now, guys, when you begin Unity, you go into a building, because this place takes place in France and everything. You go in the building and you're playing as young Arno Dorian. That name sound familiar, right? Well, anyways, you go in there with your dad, and what do you call it? Your dad goes like, "Oh no, I need to meet with some very important people. Here's my watch. When the big hand and the little hand hit number 12, I will be right back," and everything. And basically he tells Arno to don't go anywhere, because Arno has a very bad habit of going anywhere. Arno sees this little redhead his age, because he's 8 at this point or something. And she's a little mischievous girl. And then he wants to play, and then they go run around and go to this little courtyard in the middle of the building. And at one point she dares Arno to steal an apple from this table. And the game's just showing you how stealth is gonna work, how you can run away, how you can hide, yada yada. That's the whole point of this whole thing, and him taking an apple in front of a guard. So once you successfully evade, you run into a room, and then you hear Elise and Arno say a very familiar form of dialogue. It's like, "Oh, wasn't that fun?" It's like, you think they saw us steal those apples and everything? They're talking about stealing apples. Well, where did we hear that before? Oh, sorry, Peaches. I accidentally hit her. It's like, where did we hear that before? Oh, snap. When we were playing Shay Patrick Cormac in the end of Assassin's Creed Rogue, when we were going to go kill an assassin, Yeah. Those games intercept. So when that scene is happening, when you're watching that scene in Unity happening, Shay is literally just a few feet away from you. And then you hear like gasping, like, oh my God, what's happening? And then Arno thinks like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm the one who stole the apple and everything. But no one cares. It's an apple, dude. Chill out. And that's when you go into the hallway where you were meant to wait. And that's when you see your dad on the floor, dead and everything. And yeah, that's when you see him dead. And just knowing that that's literally the end of where Rogue happened. When you see your father dead, just know that Shay is literally outside the building right now, just walking out the entrance. You know, it's insane. It's insane how they did it. They never did anything like that again, ever. But yeah, so how do you call it? The game is super fun. The story, it's pretty chill. You know, I'm not gonna say it's the best, but it is very entertaining. I will say that. Syndicate, it was in England. Oh, one thing about Unity that kind of annoyed me, it took place in France, right? Every installment after that, before that, minus, you know, the first Assassin's Creed game, but we can let that one slide, because it kind of tried to rectify itself in Revelations. Every characters spoke in an accent that would have been acceptable for what country and region of the world they were at. Like, again, minus Assassin's Creed 1, which they tried to fix in Revelations. Altair in Revelations spoke in a Middle Eastern accent. Then you had Ezio speaking more in an Italian accent and everything. It's like, he goes, bene, you know, res create in pace, and everything like that. And then you have Connor, like, speaking in that very, like, he can speak his own language, but he, like, speaks in that very kind of monotone, but very precise. And you know how typical natives speak? That's how Connor speaks, which is understandable. You know, he spoke both English and Spanish. Say English and Spanish, right? English and his language growing up and everything like that. And then you had what's his name, Edward Kenway with a Welsh accent. You had Shay Patrick Cormac with an Irish accent and everything. And then you have Arno Dorian taking place in France, born and raised in France, speaking with an English accent. It's like, what? You know, you have like a few people here and there speak with a French accent, but everybody else speaks in an English accent. It's like, what the hell is this? Well, anyways, you go to Syndicate, and it actually takes place in the industrial times in late 1800s England and everything. And just know when this is happening, it's shortly after the Civil War had ended in America. So you're there, and a lot of people talk crap about Syndicate. And yeah, I would admit it's not the best. You know, it kind of tried to take a little influence of how Unity looked, how Unity worked and everything like that, but it took its own liberties. But it wasn't the greatest. It was entertaining though. I can't say much for Unity. I mean for Syndicate, except you could ride carriages. And what else? Yeah, I think that's about it. But I think that's when Ubisoft decided to take a break, and then for like 2 years, 3 years or something like that, and then they popped up with Origins. Except it's different now because, well, the setting is in Egypt, like 200 something BC or whatever, or 500 something BC. So this is the oldest game by far at this point. It plays more like an RPG now. You know? It's an RPG game. It's no longer just an assassin. But it makes sense because this is before the Brotherhood was ever created. Before the name Assassin was a thing. At the end of the game, you know, you realize that a form of justice from the shadows is necessary to fight the corruption and evil of whatever rulership, whatever government there is. And they established the hidden one. They showed how they came up with the symbol, and that's the names they went at the beginning, the hidden ones and everything. So everybody knew of the hidden ones, but no one knew who they were because they were hidden. And yeah, it was a good story, and I liked it how they tried to still kind of fit in the modern day Assassin's Creed thing, whatever. But it just, the modern days weren't that fun though. But these last three games, Origins, Odyssey, which sucks, and Valhalla, which is actually pretty fun, have been doing was basically establishing, like, everything leading up to Origins was based on one big thing. The only religion really brought in there was the Christian Catholic religion. That's it. You have the Templars, who were Catholics, were they? Catholicism? I forgot. And yeah, they did all that stuff. They had crosses, everything for the Holy Land, whatever. That was it. Origins was the first game to come out where, when they talked about religion, they talked about the religion of and the gods of the Egyptians. You had all their, almost the main gods there and everything. That you have Sekhmet, Sobek, Anubis, and what is that? Anubis is that one, right? And yeah, you had all of them, and they were like really establishing that these are the times where multiple different gods for every region of the world, for every type of person, was a common thing. Not only that, though, they were starting to offer an explanation, which later was fleshed out more in Odyssey, and then now more in Valhalla, where it was like the reason people believed in gods, multiple different gods, had some reason behind them. It wasn't just people making stuff up or anything like that. Those so-called gods were beings from the first civilization, were Isu beings and everything. Isu beings. Isu beings. You had I'll put this in. You had the Animus kind of glitching out in Origins, where in 3 different regions you got to fight huge digital versions of the Egyptian gods and everything, which was very, very cool and everything. You had the only special and legendary animals you got to fight in Origins were war elephants. And that was it. Nothing really huge, but it was cool and they were scary. This was the first time a game made me scared of elephants. Then you had Odyssey, which is, again, the worst installment in my very, very, very honest opinion of this franchise. You got to fight the Minotaur. You got to fight Medusa. You got to fight Cyclopses. You got to fight Cerberus and everything like that, because it took place. You were a Spartan in Greece and everything like that. And they're Greek gods, Zeus and who, Aphrodite was another one, I forgot. You had all these gods and everything, but when you fight those legendary animals, those mythical animals and everything, that beasts, what you find out is the reason those beasts exist was because it was a piece of Eden that someone or something got a hold of and just really corrupted them and transformed them into something that they weren't before, which is how mythical beasts were created and everything. But the game never touched upon gods, unless you ordered one of the DLC. Never touched upon gods. It wasn't until Valhalla that really actually put you in the footsteps of a god and everything. Like they literally had sequences where you're in Valhalla. No, not Valhalla. in Asgard. You play as Odin. You see Freya. You see Thor. You see what are the other names? Man, that's the only ones I know. You fight against the Jotuns. You go to Jotunheim and everything. There's talks about Ragnarok. You're walking in the footsteps of Norse gods, and you're amongst other Norse gods. And it's just like, how is this happening? Where's the assassins? You know? I was like, I thought I was supposed to hide in plain sight and stay my blood from the flesh of the innocent. You know? Why am I Odin right now? It's like, what? But yeah, so something that I liked about it is that in Valhalla they established something very, very important. And my boy's playing this right now. I don't know how far he is. So if you want to avoid spoilers, my brother, like skip ahead. Just skip ahead a bit. They established that the characters that we're playing or we're associated with in the main game and everything, when we're on Earth and everything in Norway and in England and everything like that, we're kind of reincarnations of beings from the first civilization and everything like that. So basically, when they were referring to Ragnarok, what reality was happening was the destruction of the first civilization of the Isu, after Adam and Eve stole the apple, even though in the Bible, it doesn't say specifically what fruit it was. It just says the forbidden fruit. They made it into the apple of Eden, So, and it's an artifact, not an actual fruit. So when Adam and Eve stole the apple of Eden, everything happened. That's how Ragnarok was going on. And the characters saved themselves and were reincarnated, basically. I just realized that my battery is about to die any second now. I wish I could talk about it more and everything. Maybe I'll do another one tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of The Mind of Mando. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Assassin's Creed rocks. Please play the games. They're worth it. You love history. You love story. You'll love them. See ya.